You survived something that should have destroyed you. And the strangest part is you still don't fully understand why. Not just survived in the basic sense, not just made it through and moved on. You survived in a way that left a mark. A deep, invisible mark that you carry everywhere you go, into rooms full of people, into conversations that feel shallow, into moments of quiet where you sit alone and feel something stirring inside you that you can't name. Something that says there's more to this. Something that whispers your story isn't finished. And you've been trying to figure out what that means for a long time now. The thing is, most people who go through what you went through don't come out the way you did. They come out broken and they stay broken. They come out bitter and they build their entire identity around that bitterness. They come out lost and they never really look for the way back. But you came out of it different. Changed, yes. Scarred, absolutely. But underneath the scars, there's something that wasn't there before. Something stronger, something deeper. Something that the people around you can't explain and sometimes can't even look at directly without feeling uncomfortable. You felt that, didn't you? You felt the way certain people respond to you, like you carry a weight they can't quite identify. Like there's something about you that makes them uneasy without knowing why. And you've spent years trying to make yourself smaller so they'd feel more comfortable. Years trying to fit into spaces that were never designed for you. Years wondering why you always feel like you're on the outside of something, watching life through glass while everyone else seems to just belong. That feeling is not a flaw. That feeling is a fingerprint, and what I'm about to tell you is going to reframe everything. Not just your pain, not just your past, everything. There's a question you've never been able to fully answer. And it's not the question most people think it is. It's not, why did this happen to me? You've sat with that question long enough to know it doesn't lead anywhere. The question that actually keeps you up, the one that surfaces in the middle of the night when the world is quiet and your mind goes somewhere honest, is this: why am I still here? Not in a hopeless way. In a wondering way, in a something about this doesn't add up way, because you know what you went through, you know how close it came. You know the version of you that almost didn't make it, the version that was right on the edge, looking down at the drop, wondering if there was any reason to keep going. And somehow something held you. Something invisible and unshakable pulled you back from that edge, not with a dramatic rescue, but with the quietest sense of not yet. Just those two words, not yet. You sensed this before anyone told you. You sensed that your story wasn't finished. That there was something on the other side of the pain that required your presence. You couldn't see it. You couldn't prove it. You couldn't explain it to anyone without sounding like you were reaching for comfort, but you felt it. And that feeling was not your imagination. That feeling was information. Here is what nobody tells you about survival, real survival, the kind that leaves you fundamentally changed. It is always intentional. Not in the sense that someone designed your suffering for the pleasure of watching you hurt, but in the sense that what you came through was preparing something inside you that could not have been built any other way. The kind of strength you now carry cannot be taught. It cannot be inspired by a motivational speech or developed in a comfortable season. It is forged, and the forging process is never gentle. Think about iron for a moment. Raw iron is strong in the way that most things are strong. It can hold weight, it can resist pressure up to a point. But iron that has been heated until it glows, hammered under force, plunged into cold water and hammered again, that becomes something else entirely. That becomes steel. That becomes the thing you build foundations with. That becomes the thing that holds up everything else. What you went through was the fire. What you survived was the hammer, and you are the steel. But here's the part that no one prepares you for. Here's the part that explains something that may have never made sense until right now. After the fire, after the hammer, after you come out the other side as something stronger than you were, nobody in your old life knows how to hold you anymore. You noticed this. You watched it happen and you didn't have language for it. People who were close to you started creating distance. Not because of something you did, not because you changed in a way that was wrong, but because the version of you that came through the pain no longer fits the shape of the spaces they were used to putting you in. You grew in ways that made them feel something they couldn't name, maybe inadequacy, maybe conviction, maybe just the unsettling awareness that they haven't done the inner work you have. And rather than face that feeling, they stepped back. And you were left standing there wondering what you did wrong. You didn't do anything wrong. In fact, you did everything right. The people who pull away from you after your transformation are not people leaving your life. They are people being moved out of your way. There is a difference that is so significant, so deeply important, that I need you to sit with it for a moment. Someone leaving your life feels like loss. Someone being moved out of your way is the universe clearing a path. and the two can feel completely identical in the moment they're happening. This is what others could not understand about your period of isolation. They saw someone who was alone. They saw someone who had lost connections, who seemed to be falling behind, who wasn't progressing the way people expected. But heaven saw something different. Heaven saw a chosen one being separated from every weight, every distraction, every relationship that would have anchored them to a level they were never supposed to stay on. Your isolation was not punishment. Your isolation was preparation. And the harder truth, the one that may sting before it heals, is that some of those people who disappeared, they couldn't stay in your life and be who they truly were. Being around you, around the person you were becoming, required too much of them. Your presence is convicting. Your survival is a testimony even when you're not saying a word. And not everyone is ready to be around a living testimony. Most people will never experience this specific kind of loneliness, the loneliness of being called to something higher and having to walk toward it while everyone who is comfortable with the old you watches from a distance with confusion on their faces. Only a chosen one understands this feeling. Now I want to take you somewhere that might feel uncomfortable at first. I want to go back to the thing, you know what I mean. The specific thing, the season, the moment, the relationship, the loss, the betrayal, the diagnosis, the collapse, whatever it was that cracked you open in a way you still carry with you. Most people, when they think about the thing, feel one of two ways. Either they've packed it into a room inside themselves and locked the door, and the weight of that locked room affects everything in their life without them even realizing it. Or they replay it on a loop, examining it from every angle, trying to find the logic in it, trying to find someone to blame, trying to find the mistake they made that caused it, as if understanding it fully will take away the power it still holds. But there's a third way of seeing the thing, a way that transforms it. What if the thing that was supposed to break you was never about breaking you? What if it was a translation? Every chosen one has a specific language they are meant to speak, not a spoken language, but a spiritual one. A frequency, the ability to communicate something to a specific group of people that no one else can reach. And that language is not learned in comfort. It is not developed in seasons of ease. It is born in the exact moments when you were at your lowest, when you were on the floor, when you were in the dark, when you were crying out and wondering if anything was listening. The pain you went through gave you fluency. It gave you access to a room in the human experience that most people only glimpse from the outside. When someone who is broken comes to you, not necessarily with words, but in that deep, unspoken way that desperate people communicate, you will know exactly what to say. Not because you read it somewhere, not because you studied it, because you lived it. Because you went into that dark room yourself and you found the door on the other side. Your story is becoming someone else's breakthrough, not in the future tense, not someday. Right now, without you even knowing it, the things you survived are already functioning as an invisible map for people who are currently lost in the same territory you walked out of. Let's talk about something that might explain a pattern you've noticed but never fully understood. Have you ever felt like your success, whatever form it takes for you, has been unreasonably delayed? Like you can see where you're supposed to be, you can feel the pull of it, you can see people around you moving into opportunities and seasons of flourishing, but for you there's always one more wait. One more obstacle, one more moment where the door that was supposed to open stays closed. And you've prayed about it, you've worked toward it, you've done everything right by most standards, and still the delay persists. This explains something that never made sense. The delay was not dysfunction, the delay was protection. Not protection from failure, that would be too simple. Protection from success that arrives before you are equipped to sustain it. Think about what it means to be handed a platform, a responsibility, an influence, an opportunity before you have the character depth to carry it without it destroying you. You have seen this happen to people. You have watched someone get everything they wanted before they were ready for it, and you watched it consume them. The fame without the rootedness. The position without the wisdom. The audience without the message that only suffering can produce. Heaven delayed your breakthrough because heaven knew what your breakthrough would require of you. And the version of you from 3 years ago, from 5 years ago, was not ready to carry it without dropping it. Not because you were weak, because you hadn't been through the process yet. The delay was not heaven ignoring you. The delay was heaven protecting the very thing it was building in you. And here is the thing about divine timing that defies human logic. It is never early and it is never late. It feels late. It looks late by every external measure. People around you may have implied it was late. You may have told yourself it was late in moments of discouragement. But the moment it arrives, and it will arrive, you will understand with absolute clarity why it could not have come any sooner. You felt this before, in smaller versions. You've had moments in your life where something that frustrated you in the moment turned out to be exactly the right timing when you looked back. The job you didn't get that led you to a better path. The relationship that ended and freed you for something more aligned with who you truly are. The plan that collapsed and revealed a direction you wouldn't have found otherwise. Those were previews. Those were small-scale demonstrations of a principle that is now operating at the largest level of your life. Your season is not late, your season is being assembled. There's something that happens in the middle of a chosen one's journey that almost nobody talks about. And it's one of the most dangerous seasons, not because of external threat, but because of internal one. It's the season where you almost talk yourself out of your own destiny. You know this season, maybe you're in it right now. Maybe you survived it once and you're watching yourself approach it again from a different angle. It's the season where everything gets quiet, where the spiritual fire that was burning in you starts to feel like embers, where you start looking at the path in front of you and wondering if you invented the whole thing, the calling, the purpose, the sense that you were destined for something, or if you were just protecting yourself from the ordinary with beautiful stories. The doubt in this season is intelligent. It doesn't come in loud, obvious forms. It comes in reasonable disguises. It says things like, be realistic, and you're not special, and maybe you misunderstood, and look how long it's been and nothing has changed. It sounds like wisdom because it borrows the language of maturity and practicality. But it is not wisdom. It is the final test before the shift. Because here is a spiritual law that operates with the reliability of gravity. The greatest opposition always appears at the threshold of the greatest breakthrough. Not before the journey, the enemy of your purpose is not interested in stopping you before you start. He is most active at the point of arrival. The resistance increases in direct proportion to how close you are to what you were created for. The moment everything gets hard, quiet, confusing, and discouraging is not the moment before failure. It is the moment before the door opens. And this is where most people make the choice that determines their entire story. Most people, when the resistance peaks, interpret it as a sign that they were wrong, that the calling wasn't real, that the purpose was a fantasy, that they should turn back and settle for something safer. And they do. And they spend the rest of their lives in the low-grade ache of knowing they left something behind at a door they didn't wait long enough at. But not you, you know this feeling, you've been here before. And you are going to stand at that door for as long as it takes. I want to tell you something about the people who misunderstood you. The people who underestimated you, dismissed you, counted you out, saw your potential, and made you feel like you were wrong for believing in it. What they did to you was painful in ways that went deeper than the surface. Being misunderstood by people who were supposed to see you, people who had proximity to who you truly were, creates a specific kind of wound. It makes you question your own perception. It makes you second-guess the things you sense about yourself. It makes you wonder if maybe they're right and the version of you they're responding to is the real one, and the bigger version you feel inside is the delusion. You felt it but could never put it into words. The way it wasn't just rejection from the outside, it was the way their rejection made you reject yourself. The way you started editing yourself to fit their limited image of you. The way you made yourself smaller and still it wasn't enough and you didn't understand why you couldn't just fit. Here's why. And this is one of the most important things I will say to you today. You cannot fit in a space that was not built for your dimensions. And the people who could not see you, who looked directly at you and saw something lesser than you actually were not people with special insight into your limitations. They were people with limited capacity to perceive what God was building. They could only see what was already visible. They could not see what was being constructed underneath. And what was being constructed underneath is not something ordinary perception can access. In Scripture, there's a story of a shepherd boy that nobody saw as a king. His own father didn't present him when the prophet came looking. His brothers didn't consider him when greatness was being sought. The whole room looked past him, and the whole room was wrong. And every person in that room who doubted him later benefited from his kingship. The people who rejected you unknowingly activated your destiny. Every dismissal pushed you deeper into yourself, into the quiet work, into the development that happens when no one is watching and no one is cheering, and you are building something purely because something inside you will not let you stop. Every person who counted you out created a condition in you that would not exist otherwise, the complete and total inability to rely on external validation for your forward movement. You learn to move without applause. You learn to build without witnesses. You learn to carry a vision that no one else could see yet and walk toward it anyway. That is not a character trait you could have downloaded from a comfortable life. That is a muscle that only develops under the specific weight of being underestimated by people whose approval you once needed. They rejected you. And in rejecting you, they unknowingly forged something in you that will outlast their opinion by generations. Now I want to bring you to the major revelation. The one that, if you really let it land, will reframe your entire past, not just the painful parts, all of it. You have been looking at your survival as something that happened to you, an event in your story. A chapter you had to get through. Even if you've made peace with it, even if you've grown from it, most people in your position still experience their hardship as something that was external, something the world did to them, something life handed them without their consent, something they endured and then moved past. But what if that framing is fundamentally incomplete? What if your survival wasn't something that happened to you? What if it was something that happened through you? What if the entire thing, the trial, the breaking, the rebuilding, the transformation, was not just your story but was a demonstration? This is where it gets deep. This is where the lens shifts completely. In every generation, there are specific people who are allowed to go through specific things not only for their own growth, but as living proof that it can be survived. As a testimony not just for the people who know them, but for the people who will find them across years, across distances, in formats that don't even exist yet. In rooms they haven't yet entered, through words they haven't yet spoken, through a presence they haven't yet fully stepped into. Your survival is not your testimony about your past. Your survival is your assignment for the future. There are people who are currently in the middle of what you have already walked out of. Right now, at this exact moment, someone is sitting in the dark that you once sat in. Someone is carrying the weight you once carried. Someone is asking the question you once asked, the why am I still here question, and the answer is closer than they think, and the answer is wearing your face, carrying your story, speaking from the other side of the thing they're currently drowning in. You didn't survive so you could recover and move on and live a quietly comfortable life. You survived so you could become the evidence. The living, breathing, walking evidence that the thing can be survived. That there is life on the other side of what feels unsurvivable. That the darkness does not win. That the breaking does not have the final word. Everything suddenly makes sense. Not just the hardship. The isolation too, because you needed to be stripped of superficial relationships so that when you speak from a place of depth rather than performance. The delay too, because the assignment requires a version of you that takes time to build. The misunderstanding too, because if everyone had been able to see you clearly from the beginning, you would have shaped yourself to their perception instead of growing into the full reality of what you are. Every single thing that felt like it was working against you was working for you, for the assignment that has been waiting for you since before you were born. Let me address something specific now. Something that has followed you through multiple seasons and worn multiple faces, and you may not have recognized it for what it is. The envy, the inexplicable opposition. The people who, without knowing you well, without having real reason, seem to have a problem with you. The energy that enters a room when you walk in sometimes, the way someone dims when you shine, the way your presence seems to provoke a reaction that you didn't invite and don't understand. You've probably spent time wondering what you did. You've probably adjusted your behavior, softened your presence, made yourself less in an attempt to reduce the friction. And it didn't work because the friction isn't about your behavior. Here is the truth about opposition and envy that almost no one teaches. It is most often a reaction to assignment, not behavior. What people respond to when they respond to your presence with friction is the authority on you, the calling, the anointing if you come from a faith tradition that uses that language. The thing that is on your life is visible to the spirit even when the person seeing it has no conscious awareness of what they're perceiving. Your gift makes room for you, but it also makes room around you. It creates a kind of spiritual presence that people feel before they have language for it. Some people respond to that presence with recognition and draw close. Others respond with the discomfort of feeling diminished and create distance or opposition. Neither response is about you in the way you might think. Both are responses to what's on you. Both are evidence that what's on you is real and is already operating whether you've stepped into it fully or not. This is not an invitation to arrogance. This is actually the opposite. This is an invitation to stop apologizing for something you didn't design. You did not choose your assignment. You did not create the gift. You did not engineer the authority. All of that was placed on you before you arrived. Your only job is to stop running from it and to start moving into it with your whole self. The opposition is not a reason to shrink. The opposition is a signal. It has always been a signal, and now you know how to read it. I want to talk to you about the version of you that almost didn't make it, not to bring you back to the pain, but because that version of you deserves to be acknowledged. Because in the rush to move forward, in the necessary act of building the next chapter, we sometimes forget to turn around and say something to the self we left in the fire. That version of you was not weak. Let me say that clearly and without qualification. That version of you, the one who was on the floor, the one who was drowning, the one who couldn't see any way forward, was not weak. That version of you was doing something that requires an extraordinary kind of strength, surviving the unsurvivable in real time without the perspective that comes afterward, without the knowledge that there is an afterward. It is easy to be strong when you can see the ending. It is a completely different kind of strength to keep breathing when you can't, and that version of you kept breathing. In moments when everything in the natural world suggested that stopping would be easier, you kept breathing. In moments when your mind was working against you and your emotions were overwhelming, and your circumstances were giving you every logical reason to give up, you kept going. That is not something to rush past. That is something to honor. Because the strength that was revealed in that season, not created, revealed, because it was always in you, that strength is now at the foundation of everything you're building. Every person who will one day be helped by your story will be helped not just by the breakthrough but by what you demonstrated in the breaking. The capacity to survive, the refusal to be finished. The something in you that would not stop, you felt it. In the worst moments you felt it. The part of you that said not yet. The part of you that was unreasonable in its insistence on continuing. The part of you that couldn't explain itself but also couldn't be silenced. That part of you is not human. Or rather, it is the truest part of what it means to be fully human, the part that is connected to something beyond the circumstances. Call it spirit, call it soul. Call it the image of something greater placed inside of you before you drew your first breath. Whatever you call it, it is the reason you are here. And it is the source of everything that is coming. You need to hear something about your uniqueness. Because this is a place where chosen ones often get confused, often get wounded, often make a decision that costs them years. You have always been different, not just slightly different, fundamentally different in ways that can't be fully explained by personality or background or experience. You experience the world differently. You process things differently. You feel things at a depth that most people around you don't seem to access. You see patterns and connections and meanings that others miss. You carry a sensitivity that is both a gift and, in the wrong environments, a source of tremendous pain. And somewhere along the way you were made to feel that the difference was a deficiency, that the sensitivity was weakness, that the depth was dysfunction, that the way you experienced the world, which was the truest, most accurate version of how you were designed to experience it, was somehow wrong. You carried that verdict for a long time. Maybe you're still carrying it. Maybe it became so integrated into your identity that you don't even notice the weight of it anymore. It just feels like who you are to see yourself as too much or not enough or slightly off from what you were supposed to be. I need you to hear this, and I need you to let it land at a level deeper than intellectual agreement. Your uniqueness was intentional, not a mistake, not a glitch, not something that needs to be corrected or softened or managed. It was the specific design of a specific purpose. You were not made like everyone else because you were not made to do what everyone else does. The very thing that made you different in environments that couldn't hold you is the exact thing that will make you irreplaceable in the environment you were actually designed for. There is a group of people, a specific, real, not hypothetical group of people, who can only be reached by someone who has been where you have been, who feels what you feel, who has survived what you survived, who sees the world through the specific lens that was installed in you through a combination of your wiring and your experiences. No one else has that exact combination. No one else can occupy that exact position. The thing that made you feel most alone is the thing that makes you most necessary. Only a chosen one understands this feeling, and now, perhaps for the first time, you understand it in the right direction. Let me tell you what's happening right now. Not in some general, vague, you have potential way. In a specific, directional, something is shifting way. There is a momentum building in your life that you may not fully see yet because you've been looking at the surface. You've been measuring the evidence of change by the external things, the opportunities, the open doors, the visible markers of progress. And by those measures, it may still look like not much is happening. But heaven doesn't measure the way we measure. In the invisible, in the spiritual, in the place where assignments are assembled and seasons are prepared, something is already in motion that your natural eyes cannot yet detect. The connections that are being arranged. The doors that are already unlocked and waiting for you to arrive at them. The people who are about to cross your path whose presence will feel like a confirmation of something you've been carrying for years without knowing what it was for. You are closer than you realize. And I know you've heard that before. I know it can sound like something people say to keep you going without any real substance behind it. But here's the difference between what I'm telling you and empty encouragement. I'm not telling you it's close because I want you to feel better. I'm telling you it's close because of the very things you've been through, because of the depth of the preparation, because of the specific nature of what was built in you through what you survived. Preparation of this magnitude doesn't happen without proportional purpose. The scale of what you went through and what it produced in you is itself evidence of the scale of what's coming. Heaven doesn't build this kind of capacity for something small. Heaven doesn't forge this kind of steel for something ordinary. The weight of what you're going to carry, the lives, the influence, the impact, the story, required exactly the kind of foundation that was laid in you through the fire. Your preparation was not wasted, not a single moment of it. Every prayer you prayed in the dark when you didn't know if anything was listening heard. Every tear that fell without an audience counted. Every moment you chose to get back up when you had every reason to stay down recorded. Every day you kept going without visible evidence that going was the right choice honored. None of it was wasted, all of it was working. All of it was assembling something so specific, so necessary, so exactly right for the assignment ahead of you that when you look back from the other side of the breakthrough, you will not want to change a single moment of it. Not because the pain was good. The pain was not good. But what the pain produced, that is something you would not trade. I want to speak now about a transition you may feel happening but don't yet trust. Something is changing in you, not just growing, shifting. The way you see things is sharpening. The things that used to hold your attention are losing their grip. The relationships and environments that felt normal before feel misaligned now. The version of your future that you were settling for in your imagination is starting to feel too small for what's stirring inside you. This transition feels disorienting because you're between two versions of yourself. The old version, the one that survived, that built itself back up, that found a way to function, is falling away. Not because it was wrong, it served its purpose. It got you through, but it was a temporary construction, a shelter for the season of healing, and now the season has changed. The new version, the one that is emerging, is not yet fully formed. It's not yet visible to the people around you. It may not yet be fully visible to you, but you can feel it, like pressure from the inside, like something trying to get out, like a version of yourself that is larger than the life you've been living and is starting to make the life you've been living feel tight. That pressure is not anxiety. That pressure is arrival. You are not coming apart, you are coming into. And this transition, as disorienting as it is, as much as it might look from the outside like you're in another difficult season, this transition is the threshold. This is the moment just before the door opens. This is the space between who you were and who you were always becoming. Stand in it. Don't rush out of it by retreating to what was familiar. Don't numb it with distraction. Stand in it and let the transformation complete itself. Because on the other side of this transition is the version of you that walks fully into the assignment. The version that is no longer hiding its capacity. The version that no longer apologizes for its depth. The version that no longer waits for permission to occupy the space it was designed for. That version is not far. That version is already in you. It's just finishing its formation. Your story is still unfolding. And the next chapter, the one you've been waiting for, the one you've been carrying hope for even in moments when hope felt irrational, is being written right now. Before I close, I need to say one more thing, something that I don't want you to move past too quickly. The pain changed you. We've established that. It forged you, it developed you, it gave you capacity and depth and fluency in the language of human suffering. All of that is true and all of that matters. But here's the thing I don't want lost in the message. You are not just a product of your pain. You are not only what you survived. The assignment is not only to be a testimony to suffering. The assignment is also to be a testimony to joy, to be a testimony to restoration, to be the evidence that life after the fire is not just livable, it is full. That the person who comes out of the breaking can laugh again, love again, dream again, and do it all with a depth that the person who never went through the fire cannot access. Your survival was not the ceiling, it was the floor. Everything that is coming, the flourishing, the impact, the love, the purpose fully expressed is built on that floor. And because the floor was built the way it was, everything built on it will be unshakable. There are people watching you who need to see not just that you made it through, but that you made it into something good. They need to see that the promise on the other side of the pain is real, that the hope that kept them going led somewhere worth going to, that God's intention was never just to get you through the dark, but to bring you into a light so clear and specific to who you are that it looks like a life custom made. Because it is. Your life is being custom made. The dimensions of it, the specific relationships, opportunities, platforms, and purposes that are being assigned to you fit you and only you. They were not mass-produced. They were not handed out to anyone who was willing to endure. They were designed to specifications that match exactly who you are, which is why no one else can occupy your spot and why you could not fill anyone else's. You are irreplaceable, not as a comfort, as a fact. So here's where we land. And I want this to land in the deepest part of you, not just in your mind. You survived because your story is not your own. It never was. It was always bigger than you. It always belonged to the people who would one day need it, to the ones who are currently in the dark that you walked out of, to the ones who will find you in ways neither of you can anticipate right now, to the generations that are downstream of your life and will live differently because of choices you haven't made yet, words you haven't spoken yet, ground you haven't taken yet.
You survive because heaven still has pages to write in your story, because the assignment requires your presence, because the specific combination of who you were born to be and what you want to went through and what it produced in you is essential to a plan that is the larger than anyone's life. You survive because what's on you is needed, what's in you is necessary, what's been built through you is irreplaceable. You survive because there are people who need a chosen one to show up in their life with the exact credential that only your story can provide. Not a perfect person, not someone who had it easy, not someone who never broke, someone who broke, who was rebuilt, who come out the other side carrying something that only the fire can produce, and who decide to do something with it. That someone is you. You are closer than you realize. Your season is changing. The preparation was not wasted. Your uniqueness was intentional. The isolation was necessary. The delay was protection. The option was a signal. The pain was a language. And your story, your full, unfinished, still unfolding story is becoming someone else's breakthrough right now. In ways you cannot see, but heaven can. Stand up, walk forward, take up the full space of who you were designed to be. Stop waiting for permission that no one else has the authority to give you. Stop waiting to be understood by people who were not meant to understand you in this season. Stop measuring your readiness by the standard of people who were never running your race. You are ready enough. You are close enough. You are strong enough. You have survived enough. And what's ahead of you is greater than what's behind you by a measure you cannot yet imagine. This is not the end of your story. This is not even the middle. This is the moment just before the turn. The moment just before everything you have been carrying finds the place it was meant to land. Your next chapter begins now. Comment chosen one if this message found you exactly when you needed it.